So for step 20, attaching the steering servo. Well, you can see that we put on the hardware in the last step, so now we need to attach it to the chassis, and this little steering pin has to go on the back side of this so that it can move the rack back and forth. And then of course these are going to be snapped on with the ball connectors. And then what's interesting is there is a clear plate, which is this one right here that we're going to need to take out of the bag and take off the protective film, which is going to sit on top of the servo. And I'm assuming it's to keep dirt and stuff from basically getting into there, but we'll see. And then you can see there's the steering pin going into the other side of the plastic. So the only thing we need are those two screws and this, along with some double-sided tape, which I've actually already cut into the appropriate size. So I'll set this up and let's put this on. Well, first off, you can see it says secure servo as far as possible in the direction of the arrows. Well, you can see that the reason for that is you can see down there, this is going to sit here, but this steering pin has to go into that steering rack. So when you put that into there, you want to make sure that the servo itself is sitting as far forward as possible to make sure that that pin is staying in there and secure. So you can see on the other side, when we put this in, we're going to want to make sure that this is sitting as far forward as possible, because you can see that if we move it out, well, it's out altogether. If we just attach it there, well, there's not enough of the pin in there. So we want to go and make sure that this is going as far forward as possible so that when we screw this in, this is secure for it to work properly with the rack. So let's put the screws in now. So let's get the two screws in place. And if we put the servo in and turn it upside down, you can see that that has to slide forward into the rack. Now, I'm not too worried about positioning at the moment, but what I do want to make sure of is that I can get the screws in for now. And that way we've got something attaching this. So I'm just going to get this set up for both sides. So I'm tightening them up, but I'm not really tightening them up much. I just want to make sure that I can get them in most of the way before I make any other adjustments. So you can see that the screws and the pieces themselves are sliding back and forth, but really it is in there, but we want to make sure that that pin is as far forward as possible. So I'm going to make sure that this is sitting as close to the front as possible, just like that. So I think what I'll do is, just because of the way that's sitting at the moment, is we're going to screw this one in a bit more. And then, because we want to make sure that that servo is going to be level too, so you don't want it on an angle, is this, and you can see the way that's sitting right there. We're going to want this one screwed in a bit more too. And that's more or less level. See how far forward that actually can come. It looks about right. And from the underside, yes. But you see that's still sliding around, but I want to make sure that that part is going to be level, which seems to be. So let's screw this one in. And I'm screwing these ones in fairly tight. Just still be careful, you don't want to strip anything. And that looks correct. So you can see that the pin is as far forward as it can go. And it's nice and tight. Because based on the hole positioning, that is as close as I can go. And you still see that there is a little bit of room between the Servo Sabre and the wall of the chassis. Okay, so that part is done. So now we need to snap on the steering arms onto these ball connectors. So off camera, I actually moved this a little bit more forward. There was nothing wrong with the way that it was, but I just wanted to shift it just a touch. So you see how there's not that much of a gap now between the Servo Sabre and the rack, but you're also seeing that the screw that screwed in all of the Servo Sabre pieces, there's only a very small gap now between the two. So it's still free, but most of the steering pin is now inside the rack itself. So I'm happier with that. I just think it was better if it was a little closer. It may not have made a difference, but I decided to make the change. So now we can snap on these ball connectors. And honestly, I don't mind snapping these ones on at this stage. So we know that they were right. So we're going to snap this one onto here. We'll grab our pliers and snap this one on. I hope. Figure out what's the best way to do it. Let's go this way. Just like that when you're doing that. There's one. And we'll do the same for the other side. And there's two. So we've got both of those now attached to the steering rack. So the only thing left now is attaching this plate. So first off, let's grab this double-sided tape, and I just cut it to a length that seemed appropriate. And the way that they're showing this, well, we're going to put this as far to the back as possible in the center, and there we go. There's the one half done. Then inside here, it's in this plastic container, but apparently there is a film. Oh yes, there's the film that's on top of this on either side. And this is now going to sit like that on top. So we just need to undo the double-sided tape on the top, and then make sure that this is positioned down correctly, which I think it is, and push. So I've made it level with the front as much as possible, and then just pushed it down. So that is the plate that's on there. So I think it's for protecting anything getting inside the mechanisms, although I don't know how that's going to work with the bottom, but there probably is a plate that goes over top, to be honest. So it must just be for the top, but we'll see how this works later on, I'm sure. So that means step 20 is complete. So we can now move on to step 21, and we're going to attach the rear gearbox.